Long before the first punch is ever thrown, before a fighter even steps into the cage, they face this other, brutal opponent, the scale. So today, we're going to break down the incredibly high-stakes, super high-risk world of extreme weight cutting in combat sports.
17 pounds. Just think about that for a second. This isn't weight you lose over months of careful dieting. Nope, this is how much some top-tier fighters can manage to drop in just 1 week before a fight. It's almost all water, and honestly, it's a pretty staggering physical feat.
And yeah, that brings us right to the heart of it all. First, how on earth is this even possible? And maybe more importantly, in a sport that's already defined by risk, is this just a necessary part of the game, or is it a danger that we really can't ignore anymore? So, just so we're all on the same page, this is what we're talking about. This has nothing to do with long-term fitness. It's a short-term, pretty drastic process that's all about making a very specific number on a scale on a very specific day, only to try and pile all that weight right back on before the fight itself.
Okay, so to understand why this is so widespread, you have to look at the argument for it. Because for the people who do it, this isn't just about suffering for no reason. It's about strategy. They see it as a calculated professional piece of the puzzle.
The first point they always make is about fairness. Look, the rules for the weigh-in, they're the same for everybody. When you sign that contract, you know the target weight. So deciding to cut weight is seen as a tactical choice, not as some kind of cheating. It's just another part of your overall game plan.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly captures that whole mindset. It's totally unapologetic. It's this professional point of view that puts all the responsibility right on the athlete's shoulders. It's your choice, and it's on you to use every tool you've got.
So what's the point of all this? Pain. Well, it's simple. Size is a huge advantage in a fight. I mean, if you can weigh in at a lower class and then rehydrate, you walk into that cage significantly bigger, stronger, and with more reach than an opponent who didn't. In a physical fight, that can easily be the difference between winning and losing.
And supporters will argue that this isn't some reckless, amateur hour thing. At the highest levels, these weight cuts are managed by whole teams of experts. We're talking sports nutritionists, performance doctors, all using data-driven plans. They see it as a controlled, scientific process, a skill to be perfected, not just a wild gamble.
But if it's such a science, why is it so incredibly dangerous? And that question, well, that brings us to the other side of this whole debate. And it's a really powerful and, frankly, deeply concerning case against the entire practice. The reality of what's happening inside the body it's pretty brutal. We're talking about severe dehydration that can lead to a really horrifying list of problems. We've all seen the headlines about fighters being hospitalized. But the most critical one on this list, for me, is the reduced cerebrospinal fluid. That means there is literally less cushion protecting your brain from getting knocked around, in a sport where getting hit in the head is a guarantee.
And this leads critics to a pretty powerful conclusion. The current system doesn't just reward the most skilled fighter, it rewards the fighter who is best able to endure a week of grueling, dangerous self-punishment. The whole incentive structure is built to reward pushing your body way past its limits.
So this is where you really see the two sides clash. Is it actually a free choice? Proponents say, yeah, absolutely. It's a strategic option in a game with shared rules. But critics say, no way. They call it a coercive culture. If everyone else is doing it to get a size advantage, you're basically forced to risk your own health just to stay on a level playing field.
And this really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? If a fighter makes the 155-pound limit for, a few minutes on a scale, and then balloons up to 175 pounds by fight night, what does the 155-pound division even mean anymore? Critics argue it just makes a mockery of the whole system that was designed to make fights fair in the first place. So, with all these risks and these serious questions about fairness, what do we do about it? Do we ban it completely? Is there some kind of middle ground? Let's take a look at what the people pushing for reform are actually proposing.
All right, so these are some of the main ideas getting tossed around. You've got same-day weigh-ins, which would give fighters almost no time to dangerously rehydrate. There's hydration testing, which could actually disqualify someone who's dangerously dehydrated. And adding more weight classes could give fighters a more natural place to compete so they don't have to make such massive cuts. These are all attempts to protect the fighters from the system's own worst instincts.
And this all brings us right back to the central conflict. Because this isn't just about changing a few rules. It's really about the identity and the core values of combat sports themselves. And this slide just boils it all down perfectly. Is weight cutting a legitimate skill, something that shows off a fighter's discipline and their team's scientific knowledge? Or Is it just a dangerous arms race, where every single fighter is forced to take bigger and bigger risks with their body just to keep from falling behind?
At the end of the day, the real question isn't whether fighters can do this. Of course they can. We've seen it time and time again. The human body, especially an elite athlete's body, is capable of some incredible, almost unbelievable things. So the can they do it part, that's not really up for debate.
The real question is whether the sport should keep rewarding them for it. Is this a display of toughness we should be celebrating? Or is it an unnecessary danger that the sport has a fundamental responsibility to stop? How we answer that is going to shape the future of these sports.